Hi, welcome back to Frame by Frame.
The mission for this deep dive, I guess, is trying to figure out how this film, made under, well, pretty chaotic conditions during a war.
Right.
How did it end up being hailed as, maybe the most perfect movie ever made? It seems kind of counterintuitive.
It really does. When you look at the backstory, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, released in 1942. World War II is absolutely raging. Nobody knows the outcome.
A really uncertain time.
And the production itself sounds like a mess. An unfinished script, which is always worrying.
Famously unfinished.
They had actual European refugees in the cast, which adds this whole other layer.
The layer of realism, almost unintended.
And the director, Michael Curtiz, known for being fast, a studio workhorse. Maybe not for deep artistic statements.
That was the perception, certainly. Get it done on time, on budget.
But somehow, despite all that, it becomes, like the sources say, cinema's gold standard.
Yeah, the accidental classic. And you watch it now, 80 plus years later?
And it's still flawless. It just holds up incredibly well.
Yeah, it really does.
Okay, so let's take the picture. Casablanca, Morocco, 1941. The sources call it this Nazi-occupied limbo.
A waiting room, basically, for refugees trying desperately to get to Lisbon, then hopeful America. Freedom.
And the center of this world is Rick's Cafe American, described as the most glamorous purgatory, which I love.
That's a great description. It captures that mix of style and desperation.
And then she walks in, Ilse Lund, the woman who, smashed Rick Blaine's heart years before.
Right, Rick, the owner of the cafe. Very cynical, very detached at this point.
And she's not alone. She's with her husband, Victor Laszlo, a big deal resistance leader.
A very noble figure. And they need something desperately.
The priceless letters of transit, which, conveniently or inconveniently, Rick happens to have.
The ultimate MacGuffin, but it works perfectly.
So this is where the analysis gets really interesting. The sources break it down as basically 3 films in one.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
First, you've got the white-knuckle political thriller. Spies, the black market, Nazis everywhere, constant danger.
The Gestapo breathing down everyone's necks, Major Strasser arriving. You feel that tension.
Then, layered right on top, is the devastating romance. The whole of all the gin joints backstory.
That flashback to Paris, it's just classic Hollywood romance, but with this incredible ache to it. Heartbreaking stuff.
And the third layer is the moral drama. And it all pivots on Rick.
Right. Is this cynical guy who famously sticks his neck out for nobody gonna find his idealism again?
Is he going to sacrifice his own chance at happiness, maybe his only chance, for something bigger?
His personal feelings versus the greater good. It's a timeless conflict.
And weaving through all of this, the dialogue, wow.
Oh, it's incredible. Arguably the greatest ever written. It's definitely up there.
It's just endlessly quotable. Lines that are just part of our language now.
You don't even need to have seen the movie sometimes. Here's looking at you, kid.
We'll always have Paris. That bittersweet promise.
Round up the usual suspects. Perfect cynical deflection.
The problems of 3 little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. Puts it all in perspective.
And of course, play it, Sam. Play as time goes by, even though the exact line isn't quite that.
Right. It's close enough. It evokes the whole mood. The dialogue just has this amazing mix of wit, romance, cynicism.
And it all sounds completely natural coming out of these characters' mouths.
So that leads us back to the big question. How did all these pieces piece, though? The messy production, the thriller, the romance, the moral questions, that dialogue, the cast. How did it all fuse together?
It feels like, cinematic alchemy is the right term, like catching lightning in a bottle.
It really is a puzzle. How did that chaos produce such perfection? Well, looking at the sources, it seems like a perfect storm situation. It really starts with the writing, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The Epstein twins, Julius and Philip, and Howard Koch, they crafted that amazing structure, juggling the genres.
And those lines, they just sparkle, sharp, memorable, emotional.
And then you add Michael Curtiz, the director. Maybe a workhorse, but clearly he knew what he was doing here.
Yeah, the sources talk about his invisible hand. His pacing is incredible. The film moves.
It really does. It juggles so many characters and plot threads, but it never feels confusing or slow. He handles those crowded cafe scenes just as well as the intimate 2-person moments.
And visually, he was a master. That use of shadows, the fog, it's not just pretty.
No, it creates mood, a sense of entrapment. It reflects the characters' situations.
Rick's Cafe itself becomes a character, right? This crossroads of the world. Glamorous, dangerous.
Definitely. And Curtiz uses deep focus sometimes, keeping that background activity sharp, reminding you of the bigger world, the war, the stakes beyond Rick and Ilsa.
And he delivered moments that are just burned into movie history.
Yeah.
That Marseillais scene.
Oh, chills. Every time. Laszlo leading the singing against the Nazis. So powerful.
And the ending. That foggy runway. Just iconic. Heartbreaking, but perfect.
And Curtiz had this emotional control, the sources note. It's not overly sentimental.
Right, the power comes from the restraint. What's not said? A look in Bogart's eyes.
Yeah, you see the pain, the decision, without big speeches.
Which brings us to maybe the most crucial element. The cast.
Yeah.
Just perfect across the board.
Absolutely. Bogart, as Rick, this was the role that changed everything for him.
He wasn't just the gangster anymore. You see that vulnerability under the tough exterior.
That hard shell is clearly armor, protecting this deep wound and maybe some buried idealism.
It's a masterclass, the sources say, in internalized pain. You see it flicker across his face when he first sees Ilsa again.
That slight tremor, yeah. And his final sacrifice. It makes him this, immortal romantic figure, pain and heroism.
And then Ingrid Bergman as Ilsa. She has this luminous quality, but also ambiguity.
She makes you believe she's genuinely torn. Her feelings for Rick, her loyalty to Laszlo, it's all there in her face.
It's achingly real, as one source puts it. Her face is the emotional mirror of the film. You feel her conflict.
You totally do. And you can't forget Claude Rains as Captain Renault.
Yeah.
Oh, he steals every scene. So charming, so corrupt, so witty.
Delivering those lines with that perfect knowing sparkle and his journey from cynical collaborator to Rick's ally.
It's like the film's secret moral compass. One analysis called it. His switch feels earned.
Yeah, and Paul Henreid as Victor Laszlo, he could have been just a stiff symbol.
But he isn't. Henreid gives him charisma, courage. You believe Ilsa loves him. You believe he's worth fighting for. He's a necessary contrast to Rick.
Absolutely, and the supporting cast is just legendary.
Conrad Veidt as Major Strasser, genuinely menacing. Sidney Greenstreet as Ferrari, that booming laugh, but all business. Peter Lorre as Ugarte, so desperate.
And Dooley Wilson as Sam, the soul of the place. And finding out he was actually a drummer, not a pianist.
Isn't that wild? But his presence, his singing, it's inseparable from the film's heart as time goes by.
Madeleine LeBeau as Yvonne, her defiance in the Marseillais scene. Essie Sakal as Carl, the lovable maitre d'.
Every single part, down to the smallest role, feels perfectly cast and played.
So, okay, how do these amazing pieces fit together so seamlessly? It's more than just good ingredients.
There's that alchemy again. Max Steiner's score is a huge part of it.
Oh, definitely. Weaving as time goes by, in and out, as a theme of memory, longing, lost love.
It underscores the emotion perfectly without being syrupy or manipulative. It just enhances everything.
And the look of the film, the art direction, the atmosphere.
Rick's Cafe feels like a real place you could step into. The smoke, the shadows, the clothes, the light.
The fog on the runway, it all creates this incredibly immersive, unforgettable world. Glamour and danger side by side.
And underneath it all, these themes that just, they still hit home today, don't they?
Absolutely. Sacrifice versus selfishness, Rick's central choice.
Lost love, bittersweet memories. We'll always have Paris. That resonates with anyone who's loved and lost.
The fight against fascism, presented neutrally here, is just a core part of the story's conflict, but obviously deeply felt at the time.
Redemption. Rick finding his way back. Renault finding a cause.
And the acceptance of imperfect endings. It's not a simple happily ever after, and that makes it more real, more powerful.
And you have to keep circling back to the historical context, making this while the war was actually happening.
With actors who had literally fled the Nazis. That gives it an urgency, a reality you can't fake.
It wasn't just a movie. It was, as the sources say, propaganda and art rolled into one. A message of hope, resistance.
Which makes that ending even more potent, often called the greatest ending in cinema history.
Rick putting Ilsa on the plane with Laszlo. It rips your heart out, but it feels so right.
That line sums it up. The problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. Seeing the bigger picture.
The personal sacrifice for the greater cause. And then Renault's line.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Just the perfect grace note. Hopeful, a little cynical, witty.
It ties it all up beautifully.
So yeah, pulling it all together, Casablanca lasts because it's this perfect storm. The writing, Curtiz's direction, which was much more than just workmanlike in the end.
That flawless cast, the chemistry, the music, the look, the timing. it all just clicked under unbelievable pressure.
It created something, well, miraculous, really.
It balances all those elements: heartbreak, humor, cynicism, idealism, suspense, romance, like nothing else.
It feels completely tied to its wartime moment, but also utterly timeless in its themes.
Yeah, it's more than a movie. It's a cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
Proof that somehow greatness can emerge from total chaos.
Hollywood's beating heart in 102 perfect minutes, as one source nicely put it.
It reminds you about sacrifice, lost love, fighting for what's right,
Yeah.
and the magic of a song like As Time Goes By.
And it does make you think, why do these themes, these choices, still grab you today? How do these stories about tough decisions, sacrifice, navigating uncertainty, how does that echo in your life?
Yeah, that's a good question to ponder.
And here's a final thought to chew on. If this kind of perfection, this enduring beauty and truth could come out of wartime chaos, an unfinished script, all that uncertainty, what does that suggest about art's power? Its ability to find meaning, connection, even beauty in our own complicated, maybe chaotic times.
That's quite profound. Digging into all this material, understanding how it all fits.
Yeah.
It really does feel like, Well, borrow a line. The beginning of a beautiful friendship with this film's genius,